Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Stephen Dickens, and we've got another spotlight session here at the Mainframe Summit. I'm joined by the team at VirtualZ, or as I would say, VirtualZ, but hey, I'm from the UK, so maybe I say it differently. I've got Jeanne Glass and Vince Ray. Welcome to the show.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Stephen. We're thrilled to be here.
So let's do some introductions first off. Jeanne, you and I have known each other for a while, but maybe let's go with you first. Position your role and tell us a little bit about what you do for VirtualZ.
Yeah, so I'm founder and CEO here at VirtualZ, and I really work with the team. We have an amazing team here to bring our products to market, educate the marketplace, engage with systems integrators who are helping customers, modernize their mainframes every day, and just work with the team and the market and customers.
And your role, Vince?
Well, I'm also one of the founders and CTO here at Virtual Z. Most of my background is kind of on the technology side. Many years of developing mainframe software products, long career with Computer Associates, and Jeannie and I certainly have known each other a long time, and yeah, we're looking forward to making Virtual Z a success.
So I think as we capture this moment here in time for the mainframe platform, as I've watched you guys develop over the last few years, it's a fantastic story. There's a couple of pieces to it for me that are really interesting. The first female founded and run and operated and also Native American founded mainframe software company. Maybe, Jeannie, I'll go to you. Can you kind of give us some context, give us the origin story, if I was to use a Marvel phrase, kind of give us the where do you guys come from and sort of give us the overall positioning? Because I'm conscious maybe some of the listeners maybe aren't that familiar with you, but I think it's a fantastic story and it'd be really good to sort of capture the essence of that.
Yeah, so I had the idea for the company and I called Mark Sokol, who's now our chairman. He's funded many technology companies during his career in venture capital. He's a partner with Florida Funders in Tampa today. And I knew he would be able to tell me if my idea had any merit or not. And he felt it did have merit such that we engaged, other members of our team now, Mark Combs, who was about employee number 100 at Computer Associates. And then that led us to Vince, who is really behind the portfolio now held by Broadcom. And the idea that I had, I'll say it was this big, and then you put Vince and Mark and others in a room, and the idea became what is Virtual Z today. The fact that the company is the first women founded and Native American founded mainframe software company came as a surprise. That wasn't an aspiration. But it was shocking actually to have it be 2020 and learn that we were the first female founded mainframe software company. I think in fact, Stephen, that was one of the first conversations I had with you because it just was a surprising fact about the company. It's something we're really proud of. And
Mhm.
Vince and I both have Native American heritage. In fact, our flagship product, Lozen, is in honor of our heritage. Lozen was a female Apache warrior. She was known for her fearlessness and bravery in battle. And so she was,
I've known about Lawson for years and I didn't know that was the fact.
yeah,
That's fantastic.
yeah. And Zach, our second product, which stands for IBM Z as a client, Zach is also in honor of our heritage of our team members, our Nordic team members, and so forth. So we are trying to embed our heritage, into the company and recognize, that aspect of the company that we're excited about.
Yeah, so girl dad times four. I know we've talked about this, Ginny,
Yeah.
in the past. Kind of, we won't get into it here, but it's fantastic for me to see you guys as a female founded business, kind of leading the charge here and the success and growth. So maybe let's. You mentioned a couple of the products there, Lowe's and Zach. I mean, let's maybe start to get into some of the customer challenges we're seeing as we're sort of using this conversation today as part of our mainframe summit, which kind of showcases the innovation that's happened over the platform over the last 60 years. I think if you were to say to people what the modern mainframe is today and what it was 60 years ago, those are two massively different things. But as people look to connect their mainframe to different things, it's now part of a first tier participant in a hybrid cloud strategy. What are you seeing as some of those challenges? Cost, security, performance, and access to data. What are you seeing and what are you hearing?
Vince, do you want to take that?
Oh, sure, sure. Yeah. So, boy, there are many challenges in many directions. I mean, we tend to focus on the kind of data dimension at VirtualZ.
Hmm.
You tend to have all of this incredibly valuable business data on your mainframe, and it's very, very difficult for a variety of reasons to leverage that on other platforms. I talked to someone who's never seen a mainframe before. They hardly ever think about this kind of thing. If I've got some data and it's on a Windows server and I want to share it, I put it in the cloud and anybody can have it. Not so easy if your data is, let's say, a vsam file on the mainframe. There are just structures there that aren't common anywhere else. So that whole aspect of the data tends to be really critical problem. And it's really in both directions. It's not just how do I get to my mainframe data, it's also what if I've got applications on my mainframe that want to get to data that I've got in the cloud. It's that same, sometimes I call it an impedance mismatch. You just can't connect things the way you would on other platforms, and that's really quite a challenge today. And that's what we see as a huge opportunity, just to make that smooth and seamless and give you all the same options you have on really any other platform from the mainframe, whether you want to share mainframe data with other applications and other platforms, or data in the cloud with your mainframe applications, or both. We think that's a problem that just needs to be solved, and it's really, really central. Goes beyond just the access, as you mentioned. Security is part of it, management is part of it. I mean, a lot of mainframe folks are very, rightly so, very concerned that as soon as that data leaves the platform, they lose control over it. We like the idea that no matter what you do with that data, it stays on the mainframe and it stays controlled by mainframe security policies, management tools, all of that stuff that have kind of developed over decades at a lot of sites, just continue to be relevant today. So, it's not just the access, it's the access without losing control, the access with, where you want it, make sure that it can be limited to, trusted applications and data sources. That's, a very big part of the problem today.
So, fantastic summary there, Vince. I mean, Jeannie, I know you speak to a lot of customers. What are you hearing from them? If that's the problems that they're experiencing, how's that manifesting? Is that slower development times? Is it speed of application release? Is it that they can't harness the mission critical data for an AI project? What are some of those specifics as we try and contextualize?
Yeah, over 40% of customers say that there's something that they need to do for business agility that they are prevented from doing because legacy data access methods like ETL and others that take, a lot of programming and time and cost and MIPS consumption. All these technical problems are actually a business problem because customers can't deploy applications in the cloud that need access to mainframe data if they can't get at that mainframe data in the way that Vince described, which is required. If the way to get at data is using today's legacy methods, that becomes technology wise prohibitive, cost prohibitive, time prohibitive. So, we've done quite a bit of research in this space, and, over 40% of mainframe companies said there's something I want to do that we're not doing because we're having trouble with accessing the data.
Wow. I mean, that's huge friction. Business has got enough challenges as it is without being able to harness what, in a lot of cases, is the crown jewels data. It's the absolute transactional system of record. And if you can't get to it and can't unlock that data,
Yes,
that's a huge barrier to digital transformation and innovation.
that's right.
So, Vincent, now we've got the problem statement nailed down. I think that I understand that Jeannie gave us a great data point at 40% of users are struggling to sort of move forward because of these barriers. That obviously leads to the genesis of your entire company and the approach with Lozen and Zach. Maybe dive in here and tell us a little bit about what your thesis is and what the thinking is behind the product.
Yeah, no, and I think I mean there are many dimensions to that, but let me start with I think one of our guiding principles is the idea that whatever you do, you have to make that data very easy to consume by just about any application. Some of our competitors in this space start with the idea that, you want access to mainframe data. Step one is write a pile of code that gives you, API level access to the data you want. Well, that's great, but suppose I want to do something, very straightforward. I want to take that data and feed it into, I don't know, a BI tool or a spreadsheet or something like that. I mean, you have the option to write code in Microsoft Excel to go read your mainframe data. So, we start with the approach of you got to be able to make that mainframe data consumable to the client, whatever the client is. So it could be a custom application that the customer writes. That's great, but it could also be off the shelf software. It could be, a specific environment. A lot of customers will take things like mainframe COBOL applications and run them in an environment like, the Micro Focus enterprise server, for instance. We think that you should be able to do that without having to really think about the data. You should be able to run your application where you want to run it and process that mainframe data, even though that mainframe data is structured in a way that makes it really hard to get to from other platforms. And that's kind of where we started, is how do we give you access? And it's, really important. It's not just dumbed down access. It's the full capabilities of everything you can do with mainframe data from wherever you need it. So, you want to write an application that opens a mainframe vsam file and, I don't know, searches for a bunch of records by their keys and reads the file backwards, and, all the weird and unique things you can do in mainframe applications. You can do that, I don't know, from a Java program running on a Linux server, as though you were dealing with local data. So, I think that's part of it. And that addresses a lot of the challenges that Jeannie talked about. The skill issue. Sometimes we don't hear that brought up enough, but there are really very few people who have kind of deep technical skills on the mainframe and on other platforms. So, when you try to wire things together, you kind of get this world where, both parties are speaking different languages, and finding common ground can be, really challenging. Plus, you don't want to write APIs and, create whole new things to, think about managing over a long life cycle, and how do you secure them, and how do you optimize their performance. And by the way, cost, as you mentioned, is also, front of mind for a lot of customers. They last thing they want to hear is the way you get to that data is add a whole bunch more processing on your mainframe, because the perception is that it's really expensive. In fact, we go totally the other way. We've architected our solutions by and large to run on specialty engines on a zip processor. So, the MIPS that we would consume are, basically free. They're not driving your software meter. And it opens the door to, it's all net savings. Any work that you run on other platforms to get to that mainframe data isn't going to drive the cost of your mainframe environment through the roof. So, I think those are some of the key concepts we started with. Now that we've done products like our ZAC product, which goes the other direction, allows mainframe to get to cloud data. It's really the same exact set of ideas. We want to be able to take, let's say Amazon S3 hosted data and make it available to any application on the mainframe without that application having to change really at all. That includes even things like, we support a virtual disk model. So I can take some storage that's in the Amazon cloud or in an Azure cloud or a Google cloud, and I can say this storage is going to look just like any other mainframe disk device. Now, that means even if I got applications, maybe they're vendor products doing low level EXCP processing against that file, it still works fine, even though that data is backed by stuff in the cloud. So the ultimate of, you want your COBOL program to run against Amazon S3 data, piece of cake. You want to create a DB2 database that's backed by storage in the cloud. You do that too. I mean, it's exactly the same thing that other platform users have been doing for a decade, but the mainframe's never been able to participate in that. The mainframe was sort of left out of that. We make it possible so that you can leverage all of those cloud data sources in ways that you never could on ZOS before. So I think that kind of levels the playing field and just makes it possible to kind of think in a really new and revolutionary way, so that you're not barred from doing things, or the cost of doing things gets to be so high that it just never happens.
So Ginny, I know you spend a lot of time chatting to executives. You're chatting to those ecosystem partners. We talked about some of the GSIs. How are you building off some of the technical pieces that Vince mentioned there? And what are you starting to see as that technology unlock in some of the digital transformation journeys that sort of clients are going on?
Well, as customers are learning about VirtualZ and our solution, and there's one other solution that we can add to that. We have a third product we brought to market called Propels, which is a one-time push of mainframe data to somewhere else without having to, code and go through all the time, cost, and expense of legacy methods. So with our portfolio, what we're hearing is customers are interested in Propels, and we develop Propels based on customer request, where they just kind of need a solution that they can install today and propel the data today, not in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and through custom coding. So customers are that we work with, I would say, are not looking to get off the mainframe. I just want to address that. Mainframe modernization is kind of an oxymoron, because the mainframe is the most modern platform and innovative platform, most secure, reliable platform. But customers use the terminology mainframe modernization. And I think that comes around to some of the points Vince made, that what we're doing has been done in other platforms for years. And now we
Hmm.
are bringing these capabilities to the mainframe. So customers are not, nobody asked for an iPhone until the iPhone came. And it's like, wow, that's great. Nobody's really been asking for these products until they learned it's possible. And now we're hearing customers, saying things like, well, that's too good to be true, because they're used to that in other environments, but they're not used to that on the mainframe. So the modernization projects that we have, they're not really, what maybe you and I might think of as, modernization, because we view the mainframe as modern. It's more allowing a different level of business agility, of reducing cost, of reducing complexity, and then one of the main things that customers talk to us about is reducing risk. That
Hmm.
there's so much risk with their data. And with our products, the data is more secure because it stays where it is, secured by existing mainframe protocols. You leave your data where it is, like Vince said, as opposed to shipping it all over the place. So just the time to market, the reduced cost, the reduced risk, and then significantly reduced complexity helps. I hear hope in customers' words when they talk to us. When you hear a customer say, "Well, that's too good to be true," that's a hopeful statement, because they're just used to the challenges that we've talked about earlier in the call.
So fantastic as we start to bring this forward. I think that message of hope is really fantastic to hear, and I can understand why you're hearing that from some of your clients. We're capturing this as part of a Mainframe summit that's celebrating 60 years of the platform. Where do you see that hope going forwards? So let's maybe look out, not at the next product release, but let's maybe look that 3 year, 5 year view out. I'll go to you first, Vince, and then bring it to you, Jeannie, to bring us home. But where do you see some of the solutions that you've provided underpinning where clients are going to be on that journey, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 years out?
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think a lot of it ties to Jeannie's answer. I think and it's a funny thing. We get in front of some customers and they'll show us a diagram that they're very proud of. Here's the way I share mainframe data today, and it's one of these kind of eye charts where there are 27 different components and change data capture and I mean, you just go on and on with that, and we look at it and go, why? And we give them an alternative that's basically kind of a dotted line between the target environment and the mainframe with nothing in between. And it takes them a while to get their heads around that.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the future, I think again, this is something we've seen in other platforms. If I go to let's say a Windows server kind of a user, and we give him this question of what do you do when you need, I don't know, few terabytes of data for some kind of project. They don't think about that. They click here and there, and they go buy that storage in Amazon or whatever their preferred provider is, and they're up and running in 5 minutes. I think we're going to get to that same point with mainframe customers. I think once the novelty of our approach sinks in, customers are going to realize that they have all the same options that they enjoy everywhere else, that they can take advantage of in probably a lot of ways that we can't even imagine today. Rather than, I could see, I don't know, development team doing a new version of some internal product. And instead of, where am I going to get the storage? Where do I test this? Where do I, 5 minutes later, I can have an unlimited amount of cloud storage, and that's probably all I need to do that type of work. I think there are a lot of new things like, one of the scenarios a customer shared with us was a new idea for fault tolerance. If I have a copy of my data in Amazon and Google and Microsoft, it's pretty hard to envision a disaster that would take down all three at the same time. So it's
Hmm.
kind of a different way to think about even things like fault tolerance. I think there's something about cost in there as well, kind of trying to arbitrage between, what does it cost me to host that data internally versus in the cloud versus, maybe there's an in between. Maybe there's an on prem idea where there are, I'm using low cost storage devices that I wouldn't typically associate with mainframe applications, but, that could be part of the story too. So, I think as the world gets used to the story we're telling, the idea that mainframe data is, yes, as you said, it's the crown jewels, it's got to be secure, it's got to be, all of that, but it can also be available anywhere you want it to be available, even
Hmm.
if that means, open up a spreadsheet and point to something that just happens to be a vsam file on a mainframe, or run a mainframe application that needs lots of data and that's backed by cloud storage. I mean, these are kind of radical things today because nobody does that in any scale without, as Jeannie described it, months of research and design and all of the idea of just being able to kind of pick up our tools and, oh, you want your data to stay on the mainframe? Well, that's our Lozen story. You want the data in the cloud? Well, that's our Zach story. You want in both places at the same time? That's our Propel story. Copy the data and have multiple replicas of it. I think when the mainframe customer realizes that the value of his mainframe environment goes up tremendously, and he's going to be able to solve a lot of problems kind of in the bat of an eye that he has to spend huge amounts of resources today thinking about. And I think that's a good thing for the customer, for the platform, for us certainly. And yeah, nothing bad can come out of that.
So Jeannie, bring me home here. Contextualize this from your CEO perspective. What do you see that future looking like?
So, as Vince said, I think all of our solutions here at Virtual Z create value for the customer in their mainframe platform. So, if you look at the pain points a customer has, the top pain points of mainframe computing: cost, we reduce cost. I can't get at the data, we solve for that. We protect the mainframe platform for customers by allowing them to keep their data securely and safely on the mainframe and still get access to it out of the box, or to keep their applications on the mainframe and still get access to data, as Vince said, in S3. Or if you do need just a one time push into an AI model, out of the box. So we protect the mainframe platform for customers by solving their top challenges with the mainframe. We allow you to leave your applications on the mainframe, leave your data on the mainframe, and get at it out of the box in a way that allows your business to be agile and help you stay competitive, and serve your customers differently without those messy architectures and diagrams that Vince talked about. So we believe we are enhancing and maximizing the mainframe platform for customers while driving business agility and allowing customers to put applications where they should be for their business, data where it should be for their business, and have access to it in real time, rewrite out of the box, and get back to running your business, as opposed to developing homegrown data sharing solutions. You get back to your business, and you get to use your mainframe to run your business, not use your mainframe to share data.
I think, Jeannie, that's a fantastic way for us to wrap here. Been a fascinating conversation. Really enjoyed this. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. We love being here, Stephen. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Well, you've been
thank
watching another episode of the Mainframe Summit. There's more episodes to check out, so please check those out below, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much for watching.